We have finally reached one of our favorite weeks of the year. It is Rivalry Week, and we've already previewed the Black Friday triple header on our last episode that came out yesterday. So go check that out. We broke down Texas A&M, the Egg Bowl. We talked about some good, clean, old-fashioned hate, and we've got 6 more rivalry games this episode, so make sure you stick around for all of them. Or if not, timestamps are listed in the description. This is Always Talking Ball. Tyler Nohe, Lance Barton. Real quick, as always, before we get started, make sure you subscribe on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify. Click the like. Click this new thing on YouTube they're doing where they hyping up the video, do the hype points or something like that. We need all the help we can get around here. If you watch on YouTube, make sure you like the video. Apple, Spotify, give us comments. Follow us on X, Instagram, TikTok, all that good stuff. Let's just get straight into it, man. Big Game Breakdown, sponsored by Branded Bills. Click the link in the episode description or the QR code. It's in the top right of the screen on YouTube. Right now, type in Save More when you check out for 20% off orders, $50 or more. And I know they have some really, really good Black Friday deals that they are releasing, obviously, on Black Friday, possibly during the week, too, because everyone's doing Black Friday week. So make sure you click on the episode link or the link in our episode description on any of our socials. It's in our bios. Go to our Branded Bills link. Do all your purchasing there. It helps us out big time. Lance, there's really nowhere else to start. And no, we're not starting in Ann Arbor. We're going to start with you, my friend. We're going to start at the Iron Bowl. Down in Auburn, Alabama this week. Alabama-Auburn, 7:30 kick on ABC Saturday night. The line is currently consensus 5.5, which is kind of a dead number. I did see a 6.5 out there pop up for Auburn at like -115. If people want to get on that, obviously we're recording this on Sunday, so these game previews are very early in the week. Stuff might happen. Give us some grace here if you're watching this throughout the week. We're obviously doing this 6 days in advance. Kalen DeBoer, this is his first trip to the lovely little village on the plains, and he could not have any more pressure put on him. And this is, I mean, you and I talked about this. I don't think him and his coaching staff have ever faced the amount of pressure that they're facing this week at any points in their careers.
I agree 100%. I know he's coached in a national championship game before. I know he's coached in Pac-12 championship games before. Don't care. Don't care that he's coached in Oregon, Washington rivalry games or whatever Sioux Falls rivalry games used to have or whatever. This will be the most pressure that he's ever had in his career because of that loss to Oklahoma. And now that his playoff life, his team's playoff lives are on the line in the Iron Bowl. And yeah, dude, this is the most pressure that you could ever imagine for a coach going into a game. Imagine Ryan Day last year going into that Michigan game with the playoffs on the line, though. Like he got to rectify it in the playoffs last year. Imagine if that game would have ended his playoff hopes in Ohio State.
Mm-hmm.
What would have transpired after that game? No other way around it, man. That all the pressure is on Kalen DeBoer and this staff in this game, no doubt. But something to consider here with this: the history of the rivalry of these two teams. Obviously, normally the games that end up being just nuts, crazy, the ridiculous finishes. You had that. I will not name what it was. The return field goal that the guy ran back. I'm not naming what that name is. If you're an Auburn fan, you can say the words. I'm not saying
something thick. Something.
Yeah,
thick,
you could say it. I will not utter those words. I won't do it.
Out of respect for you, I won't do that.
You can do it. I don't care. I just won't do it. And then obviously you had the last couple of meetings there. Just even recently, you had the deal there with Bryce Young that he had to lead like a 99-yard drive to even force overtime. And that was an overtime game that was crazy. You had the Jalen Milroe deal there at the 4th and 31 that they ended up throwing a touchdown on there at the end of the game. Even dating back to like 2019 when I was actually living, my home residence was in Lee County, Alabama, in Auburn near Mims Trail, right down the road from Auburn University. My wife and I had our house there in Auburn behind enemy lines. And Bo Nix and Auburn beat Alabama in a shootout. in that game. It was a crazy game. Mac Jones, that was like his second start ever. That was after Tua had that crazy injury against Mississippi State. So again, point being is the classics that we've normally gotten in this game, outside of the Cam Newton Alabama game that was a crazy comeback. I won't call it what they call it in that game either. That was all the crazy games go on in that absolute black voodoo magic, just snake pit there in Jordan-Hare. So everything's there set up for Auburn. Even the odds makers think so, man. It's 5.5. They've made this 9-2 team versus a 5-6 team, a 5.5-point underdog. And everybody in the world sitting there. And then they made it a night game in that they just think that this is the time that Auburn's going to upset Alabama and make their season. So I will say, when the games that Auburn has actually won in this rivalry at Auburn, they've been really good Auburn teams that had really good records. No team that has had a losing record that I can think of, hell, in my lifetime, that's been against a really good Alabama team that had a good record like Alabama has right now, has actually won the game. They've pushed them for sure. They've pushed them and did everything but beat them. Dude, I was there live at the 2009 Alabama team led by Greg McElroy that went on to win the national championship. I was there live when he had to leave that crazy drive at the end of the game, and he threw a little faked the handoff and threw a little flat pattern to Roy Upchurch in the end zone to score at the very end of the game to beat Auburn at the very end of the game. Again, bad Auburn teams have really pushed really good Alabama teams in that stadium, but they haven't gotten it done and won in this type of matchup that we've got this week. So let's talk about the matchup on the field. Now, it was a little history lesson there of the rivalry itself. The matchup on the field. Auburn's defense is the real deal. They're really good. They've been really good in every game this year, really, honestly, except the Vanderbilt game. Of course, which is just ironic and funny. That's the game that what's his face, DJ Durkin, the interim coach, defensive coordinator, who's been the choreographer of this fantastic defense that Auburn's had all year long. He takes over as interim head coach, and then all of a sudden his defense gives up a zillion points against Vandy. So, is that an admiration, or is that what the defense is now as DJ Durkin is head coach? I probably think it's more of an admiration. I think Auburn's got talent on that side of the ball, and they do have the ingredients to be able to get
They gave up 17 points they gave up 14 points to Mercer really quick in that game before they got things situated too.
Yep. But they did a really good job defensively against Georgia for the most part. They held A&M to 16 points earlier in the year. They faced some really good teams this year that their defense has stepped up and played really well. I mean, their defense carried them while Hugh Freeze was head coach. And now all of a sudden, underneath the offensive coordinator, Derek Nix, who's calling plays now, they found something, man, offensively. They have Ashton Daniels, the transfer from Stanford. I think he's from Buford High School there in Georgia, powerhouse there in Georgia. They brought him in to battle Jackson Arnold and probably the backup to Jackson Arnold. And they ended up benching Jackson Arnold for Ashton Daniels, and he's played really well. He played really well at Vanderbilt. I mean, really well. They didn't play him this past week because the whole 4 games, whatever it is, you play more than 4 games, you got to preserve your red shirt. They did not play him in this past game against Mercer, so they could let him keep his extra year of eligibility so he could come back and play next year at Auburn or somewhere else if whoever the new coach ends up being, if they don't want him to be there, that he could still have another year where he could play somewhere else. True freshman phenom, 5-star, Deuce Knight. That's a guy that Auburn fans have been wanting to see all year long. Like, turn the Deuce loose. And they turned him loose this past week against Mercer. I know it's Mercer, but I mean, if you're an Auburn fan, dude, like I can't imagine how like you're not just super excited about what you watched last week against Mercer, his overall explosive ability and how good he looked. He's either going to be really highly courted in the transfer portal after this year, or whoever the new head coach ends up being at Auburn is going to make sure that NIL collective there make sure they keep him on the
Yeah.
Plains for how good he looked this past week. So let's start there. Auburn offense versus the Alabama defense. I mean, I don't really know what I would imagine Ashton Daniels is going to be starting in this game. But as well as Deuce Knight played, and also as the struggles that Alabama's defense has had with like really good, like fast and quick, like legit dual threat quarterbacks that can truly stress you in the run game, you got to think you're going to see some Deuce Knight in this game as well. Like, I think you're going to see both. I mean, I'd be shocked if Auburn doesn't. Like, wouldn't you? Like, you surely Auburn's going to try to stress Alabama's defense a little bit with the QB run game, right?
Yeah. Like you said, it'd be quick. It's different than kind of what Mateer did to him, and Mateer didn't really do much to him. But it's a totally different like quarterback run game.
Yeah.
Um,
More like Castellanos did for Florida State, like that type of
yeah.
quarterback that's really quick, really fast, that can beat you to the edge, that can get around the edge. That's not Mateer. Mateer's more of the again, he's fast, but Mateer's more of the like tough, like in between the
Mhm.
tackles type quarterback power run game. That type of quarterback doesn't hurt Alabama. The quarterback that can escape pressure when you get pressure on him and get on the outside and break contain and can really get some like really fast, get like 15, 20 yards down the field just like that. That's the
Yeah.
type of running quarterback that can affect Alabama.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Alabama's given up 4.2 yards per carry, 132 rushing yards per game, 55th and 37th in the country. So they are able to be gashed on the ground more so than through the air, to where they've only given up, 161 passing yards per game, fifth in the country. So I think teams are kind of noticing like, okay, we can run on them a little bit. And again, that's a recipe for a home underdog, right?
Yep.
You want to extend the game, keep their offense off the field, and extend the game, keep the crowd into it. Try to put together some long drives. That's what they tried to do against Georgia. They kept running into the red zone. They kept turning the ball over, making stupid mistakes. Obviously, they can't have that here.
Yeah, I don't disagree. And dude, I think one of the better matchups that you're going to see, period, this Saturday. One of the most underrated units in college football is Auburn's wide receiver unit. And we don't underrate them. We know how good that group is and how talented they are. They just had piss poor quarterbacks that couldn't throw them the football this year, and obviously a terrible system that Hugh Freeze was running that couldn't get them the football. But Cam Coleman and Eric Singleton Jr. and Malcolm Simmons are legit, and that wide receiver core against Alabama's DBs, who Alabama's DBs are also legit. That's going to be a fantastic matchup, man. Like, I can't wait to see that. The talent that both of those groups have, the Alabama DBs and the Auburn wide receivers, are going to be a
Yeah,
lot of fun to watch.
yeah,
Uh, I've talked about this for the last few weeks because I think that like Ty Simpson was like in the Heisman race. He's not really anymore, but because he was there for a long time, and the Ryan Grubb, Kalen DeBoer, you just think offense, like they just kept getting all the headlines. But Alabama's defense has been what's played really well down the stretch. And if Alabama's going to win this game
hmm
in Jordan Hare, what travels?
yeah,
Defense and run of the football. Forget the second thing I just said,
yeah,
because Alabama can't do that.
yeah.
And again, Auburn's got a really good defense of stopping the run.
Really good run defense. Yeah,
Really good run defense. I don't think Alabama is just going to wake up on Saturday and say, "Oh shit, now we can just run. We can pound the rock. We can all of a sudden just run all over somebody." I don't think you're going to do that against Auburn. Not in this charged up atmosphere. Uh, they're going to look like you're pouring gasoline on a fire when they're on defense. So I don't think you're going to be able to just line up and just run at them. I just don't. And I mean, most teams can't against this Auburn team. Like you said, they've got a really good run defense. They've done it against other teams they've played this year. So that offensive line has to be able to communicate for Alabama and has to be able to pass block and give Ty Simpson time. But again, the defense for Alabama is going to be what wins them this game if they win this game. Is going to have to be the defense. And that group needs to be able to, whoever the quarterback is for Auburn, whether it's Ashton Daniels or Deuce Knight. Obviously, Deuce Knight is a freshman, but I'm sure it's going to be Ashton Daniels mostly. They've never seen a defense like they're going to see this Saturday. So they need to be able to stop the run and stop Jeremiah Cobb running the football. And then they've got to be able to hold their own and win some battles against those really talented wide receivers for Auburn. in this matchup. I think Auburn's going to be a little bit of a hard team to prep for, honestly, from a defensive standpoint, because it's not the same exact thing that Hugh Freeze was doing, man. It's not.
Yeah.
And unfortunately for Alabama, you didn't get to see an Ashton Daniels led offense this past week against Mercer.
Yeah.
You saw a Deuce Knight led offense against Mercer.
Yep.
That's not going to be the same offense, man, that Ashton Daniels is running. It's not. He's not going to be sitting there running for 15, 20 times in this game. I think you're going to see a little bit of both. So,
So it's a hard team to prep for. Where have we heard that before?
You heard that? I told everybody that before the Florida State game.
Yeah,
I did. I told everybody
and again,
that before
it's on the road, which obviously, DeBoer's had his issues on the road. He kind of rectified them a little bit, later on throughout this year. Last year was not great, but again, like this, I think we are guilty of talking up this environment way too much because, like, if you look at their record playing at home and especially playing at home at night, like Auburn's record is not great. They just have not. They haven't played good coaches. They always play good teams at night too, right? So, like,
Auburn is a tough team to beat there at night, but like you said here recently, they haven't held their end of the bargain to back that argument up. They've
been the less talented team probably in 80% of those matchups.
Correct. This year's the first year that they actually, talent wise, again, when you look at the recruiting rankings and stuff like that, talent wise, they match up better with a lot of teams that they played this year than they have the last like 5 or 6 years. I mean, the end of the Malzahn era and the Brian Harsin era, like, dude, the recruiting was so bad, so bad. And then Hugh Freeze just flipped the roster. Like, in my opinion, the thing that Hugh Freeze is going to be remembered most fondly of at Auburn, besides his golf game, is his ability to recruit. He did flip that roster from what it was. It's so much more talented than what it was. So I do think from a talent standpoint, stacking back-to-back top 8 recruiting classes, like the talent that Auburn's going to put on the field, it's not going to be some like substantially different as far as a mismatch in talent in this game. It's just one team has always found ways to lose this year, and the other team, for the most part, has found ways to win. Now, on the flip side of it, if Alabama, it's again, dude, how many times have we said this year? If Alabama gives Ty Simpson time, they're going to win this football game. I do think Auburn can be had in the passing game, and Alabama's wide receiver core has really good wide receivers. Auburn's got some talented DBs as well. But where Auburn can affect Alabama, obviously, is, again, if you can get pressure on Ty Simpson and you can beat that very suspect offensive line for Alabama, you can cause problems for Alabama.
Auburn's 23rd in the country in sack percentage.
There you go. So Keldrick Falk and a few of those guys up front for Auburn can be extremely problematic. They are going to be probably third, unless I'm mistaken, probably the second or third best defensive front from a pass rushing perspective that can get after Ty Simpson. Oklahoma's number 1. I'm going to say probably Mizzou is number 2 with Zion Young and Damon Wilson there. And then Auburn's right there, but it's like really close between Mizzou and Auburn. So Alabama's got to be able to communicate well in that snake pit, got to be able to pick up pressures and just win their matchups up front. Like, I don't necessarily think Auburn has to like send a bunch of pressure to be able to get pressure. They've got guys good enough up front that can win against Alabama. But if Alabama just handles that pressure and is able to give Ty Simpson time, they're going to win this game. If they don't, they're going to find themselves sitting there in the fourth quarter while swag surf's going on, and they're going to be wondering why they're sitting there down 3 points, or they're in another dogfight in the damn Iron Bowl there in Auburn with their season on the line going into the fourth quarter. That is what it's for. The keys for Auburn is to get pressure on Ty Simpson, and then offensively, they just can't make they can't make mistakes. They can't beat themselves. Type deal for Auburn. They've got to be able to be mistake free.
Auburn's been they're 128th in penalties per game.
Correct.
But they have done a 180 from last year from turning the ball over. They're 13th in the nation in turnover margin. So,
and And dude, what did I tell you like off air that Alabama had become a team that like they were because the way they play offense, they're a ball control, short passing game offense. They run a lot of clock
Yep.
and they hold the ball a ton. So like they have to be efficient. But like when they
Mhm.
do that, that creates again closer games is what that creates. And Alabama up until the Oklahoma game had been winning the turnover battle, and they have been not penalized. They've been very even the Oklahoma game, they didn't have a lot of penalties in the Oklahoma game. If I'm not mistaken, like Alabama's one of the better teams in the country from a penalty standpoint. Uh, and so they're not heavily penalized. That is an
Yeah.
area where it is hugely different between Auburn and Alabama.
Yeah. 24th in the country, 4.9 penalties per game.
There you go, 4.9 penalties per game. So if Alabama has 5 penalties or less in this game, that's not going to be a reason that gets them beat. So that if they keep the penalties low and don't turn the football over and just play solid, Alabama's going to win this game. For Auburn to win this game, they need to force some mistakes from Alabama and get pressure on Ty Simpson. And those wide receivers for Auburn have to be legit. Cam Coleman, Eric Singleton Jr., Malcolm Simmons in that passing game and the QB run game has to cause a lot of problems for Alabama to win this game.
Do you have a best bet in the game?
I do not. As of right now, I do not. I've got Alabama to win this game. Shocker. But I've got Alabama to win this game. But right now, I do not have a best bet. I could see myself getting there though at 5.5. I think that man is playing on what's happened in the past. I'm going to try my best not to go on a rant out of respect for time here, but I just think so many people are looking back what's happened in the past in close games, and they just think that Auburn's going to win this game because it's a tough atmosphere and it's at night and there's been close games that's happened in the past in this rivalry. And dude, you would think that that play that I will not name, people act like that happened like yesterday. Bro, that happened so long ago, and people still live on that.
12 years ago, to be exact, I believe.
There you go. I think Alabama's going to win this game, and they're going to go play for an SEC championship.
I have no play in the game yet. If that thing, people obviously agree with you because the line in some places is ticked up to 6.5, and if it were to touch 7, you know what I got to do, my
I
brother.
understand.
You know what I got to do.
Hey, you hate money. It's okay. I understand.
In the last 10 games, down there on the plains at Jordan Hare, Auburn has covered the spread in 8 of those games in the Iron Bowl. So just a little trend to look out for. Now, let's talk about the game. At noon on Fox, Ohio
The
State
game.
at Michigan. Right now, the line is just ticking down in favor, well, depending on who you want to bet, in favor of the Ohio State Buckeyes, in favor of the Michigan Wolverines. It's at 9.5 right now. Ohio State's obviously favored in this game. When this game kicks off on Saturday, now, not that anyone is counting or anything, but it will be 2,191 days since the Buckeyes have beaten the Wolverines.
Do you think Dave Portnoy is counting?
Yeah, it's probably in his it's probably on one of his pizza reviews, I would imagine.
Yeah.
So this game, gosh, I mean, 4 straight beatdowns. And I guess last year's not a beatdown, but the fact that they were 20-point favorites in that game, they put up 10 points. Obviously, they went on to win the national championship, so they got the last laugh. But I mean, Michigan fans for that long period of time have just been hanging this over the head of Ryan Day and the Ohio State Buckeyes. And now to make matters worse, I mean, I think they were holding out Carnell Tate just to be safe. I mean, it looked like to me Jeremiah Smith still had a little bit of a limp over on the sidelines. And again, Ohio State, yes, they want to win this game. They want to shut up that team up north, right? But they don't need to win this game. They're in the playoffs, even if they lose this. They may not be they won't be in the Big Ten championship, that's for sure. It'll be either Oregon or Michigan at that point. But they'll be in the playoffs and they'll be hosting a first round game just like they were last year. And so it's just it's it's a contrast of styles here. Like, you got a freshman quarterback that we've talked about in Michigan all year long. What's this dude gonna be like at the end of the season where he's not really like a freshman anymore? It's gonna be his 12th game. He started from the very get-go, but now he's going up against the number one defense in the country. 8.4 points per game, 210 yards per game they're giving up. The rush defense, 2.6 yards per carry, 78.6 yards rushing per game. The pass defense is even better, 5.2 yards per pass, 132 yards per game passing. And trust me, I am with all of you thinking right now, well, who the heck have they played? Like, they have not faced a great offense yet. The best offense they've faced, I mean, statistically, it might be Washington, but like probably, Washington, Texas, Illinois, like those are the three games that they've had right now. And I'm not saying this Michigan team is some sort of offensive world beaters. You could take Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate, they could skip this game on Saturday, and Brandon Ennis and those guys would still be the best wide receivers on the field.
Yep.
So it's all a matter of, can Michigan control the line of scrimmage like they've done for the past 2,000 plus days?
That's where it's tough for me, man, because Michigan had two legit NFL defensive tackles there last year that dominated that matchup because Ohio State decided they wanted to line up and just be somebody that they weren't, because Michigan made them think that they had to line up and try to play bully ball against them last year because of the mind games that Michigan had obviously played with Ohio State the last few years that made Ryan Day and Chip Kelly and that Ohio State team last year feel like that they just couldn't win the game. They needed to line up and out physical Michigan. They needed to beat Michigan at their own game instead of doing what they did in the college football playoff, which is, oh, yeah, we've got these freak athletes and, Henderson and Judkins and Jeremiah Smith and all this Emeka Egbuka and all these guys that we can get in space and just run you to death sideline to sideline and all over the field and use all this space and just obliterate you. They didn't do that last year. And I do not think that Ryan Day and Ohio State is going to come into this matchup and make that same mistake again. I just don't. Now, does that mean that Ohio State wins a game? It does not, because the previous 2 years when Michigan absolutely did beat their ass the previous 2 years, Ohio State didn't play like that in those games. They didn't line up and try to play in a phone booth like they did last year with Michigan. So Michigan has won this matchup the last few years playing whatever style that anybody wants to play. So really what you've got, I mean, it's a hard handicap, bro. It just is. Is the same Ohio State that we've seen all year long is, number one, like you said, is Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith going to play? As we're sitting here recording this, bro, look, I'm not a doctor. Do I think they're going to play in the game against Michigan? I would imagine that Jeremiah Smith, the way he's made up and the way he just comes across on the cameras and the media and the way he plays and stuff, like, I know what you said earlier about, like, they don't have to win this game to go win a national championship and all that kind of stuff. I totally agree with you and understand that. But I think that Jeremiah Smith would play on crutches in this game, in this matchup. I
Didn't
really
he
do.
make a declaration before the season? He would never lose to Michigan again.
He did. He did say
Yeah.
that. And so,
Maybe
like,
maybe this is his way out of it. He's not going to play, so technically he's not going to lose to Michigan.
Yeah, maybe. But I would imagine that Tate and Smith are going to play in this matchup. And I don't know that for a fact, but I am talking to you folks right now that are listening and watching this as if they're going to play.
Yeah.
Ohio State has struggled a little bit in the running game this year against the better teams. I don't know that they're going to have just a ton of success lining up and running the football against this Michigan defense. Michigan still has some dudes up front that can stifle you from running the football. So I just don't think Ohio State's going to be able to have a ton of success running the ball. Maybe if they loosen them up in the passing game, maybe they do have a little bit of success running it. But this just really comes down to, if Ohio State plays their game and it's not a mental block against Michigan, Ohio State's a lot better than Michigan, man.
Yeah.
They are. They just
They've
are.
been a lot better than Michigan.
I don't know that they were a lot better 2 years ago. 2 years ago. I would agree with you. Maybe it was 3 years ago that they probably were, but I don't know about 2 years ago.
Yeah, that game 2 years ago was a 3-point Michigan spread, so, I mean, home field advantage, they about even.
Yeah, so, like, I think that team that won the Natty for Michigan, I don't know that it was one team was much better. Yeah, but, like, the year before that, yeah, last year, of course, major difference.
Year before
So
that, in 2022, they were 9-point favorites, Ohio State was, they lost by 22. And then the year before that, in 2021, they were 6.5-point favorites and they lost by 15.
yeah, and that was the game too. It kinda snowed and all that. I think that was the Aiden
Mhm.
Hutchinson, group, for Michigan. Yeah, that was, it's been an interesting rivalry, man.
Yeah,
So
it's games in Ann Arbor, right? So, it's gonna be cold up there. I don't know if any snows in the forecast. It's
I've already
6
I've
days
already
before.
I'm not gonna make the same mistake we made a couple weeks ago when we decided not to be meteorologists, for the USC Iowa game. And I actually did look it up. It is going to
Okay,
be a typical D game in Ann Arbor. It is going
okay,
to be cold as balls, and it's going to be about 30 degrees. There is about a 50% chance as of right now, as we sit today. The Weather Channel app told me this, folks. If anybody wants to check me on this, as I'm
yeah,
sitting here recording this, the Weather Channel app tells me it's a 50% chance of snow. So that is Michigan football and Ann Arbor weather
mhm,
for this
yep,
game. So let me ask you this: do you think Bryce Underwood can have success against
man,
this? Because
it's
even last year, Michigan didn't have any success, dude. Offensively, they suck offensively, and they still found a way to win that game. But Bryce Underwood's a whole lot better than whatever they trotted out at quarterback last year. Do you think he can have success at all against this Buckeye defense?
I think they can scheme some stuff where we can have some success at the beginning, open them up with, some easy passes, get him some confidence a little bit. But man, like that Ohio State defense is gonna get after him on the defensive line, and then to have a linebacker like Arvell Reese, like, dude's a top 10 pick, like,
Yep.
they have guys behind him like Caleb Downs, and, like, again, they just reloaded on that defense from a year ago to where they're better this year statistically than they were last year.
Yep.
And if you look at, and intangibles and stuff like that with turnovers and penalties, it's a pretty moot point. Both teams are pretty disciplined, 12th and 16th in penalties per game. It's still kind of like that Ohio State and Michigan too, but Ohio State, their opponents are 133rd in opponent penalties per game. So Big Ten officials this year, props to them. They are letting the boys play. And we like that. 4.3 penalties per game on Michigan and 3.8 on their opponents. So, like, not a lot of flags in the game. We like that. Turnovers relatively even there. So I think it's just kind of like a who wants it more game, man. And to me, I've already made this bet. I made it a week ago or so. I took Michigan plus 12.5 as soon as that line dropped. I think it did even tick up to 13.5. And then these weekends games played, and I think Michigan maybe showed some people some stuff against Maryland, apparently. And it's down to, 10.5, 9.5 range. And honestly, man, I would still, again, you're not going to, I bet Ohio State last week or last year. And I probably bet them the year before, and I just cannot get caught doing it again. And maybe they'll make me pay. Maybe they'll take care of business this year, but until they can prove it to me that they can go into Ann Arbor and they can beat Michigan, I'm going to take the Wolverines to cover that 12.5 and
This will
nine
be
and a
one of the
half.
first times in a while we've gone head to head.
Okay.
That line currently sits at 9.5, and I'm going to take Ohio State minus 9.5.
Okay.
And if they let me down this time, it'll be a while before I can back them again against Michigan. But I'm going
If
to
they
take
lose this game, just go to the futures and bet them to win it all.
yeah, I'm going to take Ohio State minus 9.5 in this matchup. Michigan's defense has actually not been as dominant as we thought they were going to be preseason wise. Uh, they're still a good defense, but they have not been as dominant as what I think that we thought they were going to be. And this is obviously the either the best or second best offense that they've faced all year. It is the best collection of it is. It's the best collection of talent that they have faced offensively. But the reason I'm saying that is, and I know some Ohio State fans listening to this will go, "You're crazy if you think USC's offense is better than Ohio State." Actually, the numbers would say the USC's offense is better. But I'll give it to you. I think Ohio State, when they line up and want to play, and give it everything that they've got and throw everything at you, throw the whole kitchen sink at you, which they obviously will in this matchup offensively. Then the Buckeyes with Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate and that crew and Max Clare, the tight end. It's probably the best. They're probably better than USC offensively overall. But yeah, I just think Ohio State that I don't know how Michigan's going to move the football, bro. Like last year, Michigan didn't score either. I just don't think Ohio State, man. No way that Ryan Day and Brian Hartline are going to come into this matchup and say, "I tell you what, boys, we're gonna line up, we're gonna try to bloody their nose. We're gonna line up in power I and just run right at them over and over and over again, and do nothing for 4 quarters like they did last year. No way."
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm going to bank that Ohio State's going to get their athletes in space and that they're actually going to play normal Ohio State offense and get the rock to Carnell Tate and Max Clare and Jeremiah Smith and that crew, and that their defense is going to shut Michigan's average offense out, and that Ohio State wins this game and wins this game by 10 or more and covers the 9.5.
Let's travel to the Pacific Northwest, Oregon, going on the road to face Washington and Husky Stadium in Seattle. Line currently 7 points in favor of the Ducks. 3:30 kick on CBS. So it's going to be sandwiched between our Ohio State, Michigan, and our Alabama-Auburn games we just previewed. Since 2022, you alluded to this, man. Since 2022, Washington's 25-1 at home.
The only loss is
Only
to Ohio
loss
State, isn't it?
Only lost to Ohio
Yeah.
State this year. They lost that game 24-6. So obviously Oregon's coming off a big victory over USC. And this is, I mean, it's crazy up there, man. Like they were talking to Marcus Mariota on College Game Day. Who do these people behind us hate more, Oregon State or Washington? And it was like overwhelming Washington, which
I've
is
got
why
a
we put that on our top rivalry games.
Yeah, dude, I've got a cousin that is on my wife's side of the family that's a huge Ducks fan. Yeah, that she said the same thing. Like she played soccer, I believe, at Oregon, and she said the same thing that like they hate Washington way more. That the
Yeah.
rivalry there between those two programs are legit. I love it, man. Again, this is what makes rivalry week so great.
Yep. Oh, now Oregon for the past 3 weeks, well, say for Minnesota, they've obviously taken a step up in competition, like we said they were going to this past month. But it doesn't get much more difficult than this. Honestly, I think this is going to be the toughest game that they've faced all year. And obviously, the situation they're in, they're 10-1. If they win this game and Michigan wins, then Oregon will go to the Big Ten championship. And if they lose this game, Michigan wins, Michigan goes. If they lose this game to Washington, though, I mean, what are we doing with Oregon?
I think they'll probably still be in, but they like it's not a lot, bro. It's not. Like it's really not, because I do think that if Oregon loses this game, it will like when that I don't care what anybody says, man. When you get a group of individuals in a room behind closed doors and they're like, you put your fate in their hands, you are now being compared to other programs that are going to like their resumes are not much different than yours. And here's the problem for Oregon: their resumes will actually be as good or better than yours.
Yeah.
If Oregon is sitting there being compared to, and we all know the teams they're going to be compared to, okay, at this point, they would have to be banking on that the committee would say, we just think that that team, whatever that, what's the term they use? The so and so is unequivocally
Mhm.
better. Yeah. They would have to win that battle. They couldn't win the battle of as many these great wins and losses and overall strength of schedule and overall strength of record. All of those would not be better than the teams they'd be going against. They would have to win this team A is in Oregon is unequivocally better than whoever team B is.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, if I'm sitting here right now and saying it, whether this is fair or not, if that's what they use, I want them to say it
Mhm.
on the committee. Like, I want the committee to say it to all of us that that's the reason why. And if they believe that that's the reason why, I'm okay with it. I
Yep.
really am. We'll pick it apart, I'm sure, and say that like,
Yep.
well, I don't care. So and so deserved it. It was resume more. But I think you would agree. Do I think Oregon's probably better than some of these other teams that they would be compared against in that scenario? Yes, I do. So do I
Mhm.
think they'd still be in? I do. But as of right now, if I had to say it, yes, I do. But I think you agree with me. They absolutely would not be hosting a playoff game in Autzen Stadium. And
Nope.
any Oregon fan that is listening and watching this right now, I think would agree. Having to travel in the first round to an SEC program or whoever that may be in the opening round, as opposed to hosting someone in Autzen Stadium, could be the difference in Oregon making a national championship run or getting bounced in their first game in the college football playoff again. That's what this game could have implications for against the Huskies.
Yeah, so for this game, I mean, the couple things I'm really excited to look for. Oregon's defense, we just talked about them. They are legit.
Yeah,
They are absolutely legit. They're a good
so
defense.
fast.
I'm anxious to see Damon Williams
Mhm.
and that offense go against them. And then on the same, opposite side of the ball, we talked about the Oregon running game, like been really, really solid. Washington gives up 106 yards per game on the ground,
Yeah,
18th in the country.
yeah.
They've been
Ron Walters doing a great job there defensively for Washington.
They've been really solid against the run. They've been really solid, really overall in defense. I mean, they're giving up 19 points per game. That's 19th in the country. Like they're top 20 defense, which is kind of what you when DeBoer was there. Like obviously their defense, they were winning games 52-42 and whatever. But Ryan Walters has really turned that defense around. Um, to me, yeah, I think it comes down to the quarterbacks. It comes down to Damon Williams and Dante Moore. Like who Damon Williams doesn't make a lot of mistakes, and Dante Moore doesn't make a lot of mistakes, and so it's almost like a momentum game. Who's going to grab the momentum early, and can it stick with you?
Yeah, dude, I was actually looking at Oregon's schedule earlier because I was curious. This will be the first like legit dual threat quarterback that Oregon's faced this year. And I mean, I'm not saying that Oregon's defense is exactly like Kirby Smart and Georgia's defense or that old Nick Saban defense, but we know that what gave that Nick Saban and Kirby Smart coaching tree defense like a lot of trouble was a dual threat quarterback. And we know Dan Lanning is from the Kirby Smart coaching tree, and Tosh Lupoy was a DC under Nick Saban before. So like there is definitely some fundamental similarities there. But the thing that's just so fascinating is this Oregon defense, dude, they are as athletic overall, it's like speed and athleticism wise, from a defensive perspective, they're about as athletic and fast as any defense there is in all of college football. And they're really athletic up front. So, like last year, dude, if I'm not mistaken, they sacked Damon Williams 10 times
Yeah,
in that game.
they did.
And now Washington's offensive line last year was cheeks. And so for Washington, if they can have success running the football with Jonah Coleman, they need to. But let's just call it what it is. If Washington's going to win this game, they need Damon Williams to be a Superman. They need him to be They need him to be an absolute freaking stud, and they need him to be one of the most like he is one of the most dynamic from a dual threat perspective quarterbacks in all of college football. They need him. They need him to be that for them to win this game. And Oregon, what are we getting? Are we getting Decorian Moore back in this game? I say
Or
we?
Gary
I'm like
Bryant Jr.
don't like. By the way, nobody misquote me here. I'm not saying I'm not an Oregon fan. By the way, I'm just saying like we as college football fans in this matchup, are we getting Decorian Moore back in this game? Are we getting Gary Bryant Jr. back in this game? I mean, it hasn't seemed to matter that much. They just dropped 42 on USC without him.
Hmm.
So, uh, and if you're Washington, you just said it. You just said it. The Huskies defense has been really good against the run. If you're going to have a chance in this game to beat Oregon, got to be able to stop the run, and then Damon Williams has to be a Superman. If they do those two things, they can win this game in Husky Stadium. Uh, I think Washington is going to give Oregon all they freaking want in this game. Do you?
You already know it, man. I've
You
already got a
coming?
best bet.
Come on
I've
with
already
it.
got a best. I got a best bet in this game. I snagged Washington plus 7.5.
Oh, that's a
I
great
got
line.
7 in the hook there. So I think they're
Great line.
going to be able to play Oregon close, and it would not shock me at all if Washington pulls out this W.
I agree. I agree. Like it really would not shock me to see Washington win this game.
Yeah.
Not one bit. We've talked about it for weeks. We said it earlier in the year. Hell, you even talked about it preseason that you could see Oregon going up to Husky Stadium at the end of the year, and even in this spot that they're in right now, I mean, I still think Washington is good enough to get the upset in this game against the Ducks.
Yeah. Yeah. Not really a rivalry game, but Miami is going on the road up north to Pittsburgh, where Friday night, when they lay their head on the pillow at the hotel, whatever their hotel they're staying at, the feels like temperature is going to be 17 degrees, and the high feels like temperature on Saturday is going to be 30. Um, Low chance for precipitation, so that's good. But you're always interested to see how the boys down from South Beach, when they travel up north, when they're not playing Syracuse in the Dome, how they perform outdoors in November. So ACC schedule makers, I know the ACC is really fighting hard for Miami, and they're probably really regretting giving them a game in Pittsburgh to end the year. Um, didn't do themselves many favors there, but right now Miami is 6.5 point favorites. The game is at noon on ABC, so get your split screens ready there with Ohio State and Michigan, because this one is sure to be a good one as well. Ever since this Mason Heinzel kid took over, true freshman from Pitt, when they didn't play Notre Dame, man, like he's just been lighting guys up. And I know, it's probably a step up in competition. Miami's probably the most talented roster, not probably, they are the most talented roster in the ACC, and it's going to be another step up in competition. And I don't think it's quite going to be the same as Notre Dame. Notre Dame was more physical with them, and I think Pittsburgh's going to be able to do some stuff against Miami, but anxious to see how Pittsburgh and that Pat Narduzzi, defensive minded head coach, what do they do to make Carson Beck uncomfortable? And what do they do to contain a guy like Malachi Tony? Because again, you talk back to that Notre Dame game, he said at the very beginning of that week that they didn't really care about that game when they kind of played like it. All they wanted to do was win the next two, and they sure showed it in Atlanta, 42-28 against Georgia Tech. Now it's his turn to back it up again against the Hurricanes.
Yeah, dude, Heinzel's been so good for Pitt and ACC play. Like he was not great against Notre Dame, obviously, but he's been so good in ACC play. So I'm interested to see how Miami's got some dudes that can get after you from a pass rushing perspective. They've got two of the best combo of pass rushers in all of college football. And so how Pitt and that Cade Bell offense handles those pass rushers and how they combat that and how they uh, use some. I'm sure they're going to probably try to use the quick game, screen game, things like that. Try to some of the best. I mean, again, they're really good against the run too. That's what the Miami defensive front is. But sometimes one of the best things you can do against two really elite pass rushers is run right at them and try to slow them down to where they're just not just pinning their ears back and getting upfield. But again, Miami's been really good at stopping the run too in that matchup. So this just comes down for me, man, is if you get the really good version of Carson Beck, that's what we just got this past week against Virginia Tech, and you got him a couple of times earlier in the year, then, I mean, Miami should be fine. But the problem is you don't know in some of these matchups what version of Carson Beck that you're getting. And in a matchup to where Pitt is good enough offensively, kind of like SMU with Kevin Jennings is, Pitt's good enough offensively to score some points on Miami. Like Miami's got dudes on defense, and like Corey Hatham has done an incredible job there at DC. But Pitt is good enough, and their scheme is good enough with Cade Bell and like Mason Heinzel's been good enough this year that if they give him time, that they can score. And if they're putting pressure on you offensively to making it to where Miami has to come out and now they've got to also keep up too and be able to score with you, and it creates pressure on that Miami offense to they have to keep up and score as well. That will you get a different the bad version of
Yeah.
Carson Beck in that game? Uh, do you think that Pitt can slow down Malachi Tony?
Oh man, have we
So
have
good.
we have we seen anybody slow him down at all this year?
Not really.
Yeah, you're not going to shut him down. You might be able to slow him down. I think they're going to be able to contain the Miami running game, but yeah, it's been that secondary that people have taken advantage of, and we saw, like you said, Malachi Fields with a couple touchdowns a couple weeks ago. Carson Beck's gonna have his opportunities, and yeah, Shannon Dawson has done a great job of getting the ball into Malachi Tony's hands a ton this year. I mean, they do tons of screen passes. They somehow just scheme him open on crossing routes and everything. So that will be there.
And Pitt's been pretty solid against the run. I mean, they held Georgia Tech to only 3.7 yards a carry, but like they jumped out on Georgia Tech so much that like it's kind of tough to gauge that game and use that game as a barometer for Pitt stopping the run because like
Yeah.
Georgia Tech they couldn't really just line up and still run the football as much as they wanted to because they were down 28-0 before they could blink.
Mhm.
So I do think that I mean we know Pat Narduzzi, man. I mean that he's always got a tough defensive line, a tough defensive front. Like again, there's like a stat out there that shows there's nobody that's been better at taking 3-star, like less than five, like blue chip recruits, non-blue chip recruits, and turning them into NFL draft picks than Pat Narduzzi has. Than he's been along the defensive front.
Yeah.
And he's got some dudes along the defensive front that can be problematic and cause problems for Miami. Miami's got a really good offensive line that obviously that can travel. But again, dude, it's just hard to Miami's just so hard to handicap because they're
Yeah.
talented enough to go out and beat a Notre Dame if they
Yeah.
play well, or just absolutely demolish South Florida and Florida.
Yep.
But they're also so inconsistent, and their quarterback is so inconsistent that they can throw 4 picks against Louisville, and they can come out and their head coach can play not to lose and shorten the game against a lesser talented SMU team, and then you lose that game.
Yep.
So, and you also don't know how they're going to be in cold weather. Again, I don't have a best bet. If I was going to give a best bet, I think I would take Miami to win, but Pitt to cover.
Mhm.
In
Yeah, a
this
couple
game.
things to note. I mean, Pittsburgh is forcing turnovers at almost 2 a game, 12th in the country, and obviously we know Carson Beck loves to put the ball in danger, so I think that's an advantage Pittsburgh there. You wanna talk penalties, both these teams are just absolutely atrocious, and I don't know if this is an ACC thing, I'd have to dig into that, but Miami's 135th out of 136th in penalties per game,
Really?
and Pitt is 131st, in penalties per game. Now where it
There's
gets
yellow
fr
handkerchiefs all over the field.
yeah, where it gets different is that I don't know if the ACC officials are doing some favors, but Miami's opponents average about as same amount of penalties they get per game, 8.1. Pitt's opponents only get flagged 4.6% of the or 4.6 times a game.
Narduzzi will say that's probably a conspiracy theory.
Oh yeah, he for sure will. I mean, you got 5th in the country for your opponents, getting penalties and everything. So that's kind of like the opposite of Ohio State. So best bet in this game, I'm taking Pittsburgh plus 6.5. And who knows? We might see them later on in the episode for a certain segment. So I think Pittsburgh gets the job done. I think they keep it within that 6.5.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean, that cold weather, like, again, like Miami's been just kind of focusing on, they didn't cover this last week at Virginia Tech. I was on the Hokies plus 17.5 there, barely got the cover. So, ending with 2 straight road games, especially this one in cold weather, like really cold weather. It's gonna be tough.
Yeah.
LSU at Oklahoma, 3:30 ABC. So same time as Oregon, Washington. There, get your split screens going. Oklahoma is 10-point favorites in this game. Kept this one in the lineup. I debated taking it out, but Oklahoma, still playing for a spot in the college football playoff here. I will note, I have a best bet in this game. I'm already going to get it out of the way. I have a best bet in this game because the over-under in this game is 38.5, And yeah, I'm going to take the under in that. Absolutely no qualms about it. LSU's offense is just absolutely awful. They put up 13 points against Western Kentucky at home. Um, it's amazing in Brian Kelly's tenure there. He ended up with like one of the best offenses ever, one of the best defenses, and like just awful special teams. But then he also had awful defense and he has awful offense. It's like he was all over the map, never all got it figured out at the same time.
Your meteorology report here from your meteorologist, Lance Barton, here is on Saturday. It is supposed to be showers early in the morning and then a strong chance of thunderstorms developing in the afternoon and later in the day. Winds at 15 to 20 miles per hour and chance of rain 75% as of right now.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even need to look at that. I'm going to take the under 38.5 because if you looked at Oklahoma's offense too, like again, they've just been so underwhelming for at least the last month and for the better part of the season. They
And
just
Blake Baker's defense is still playing hard and still playing
yeah,
well.
I can't imagine either one of these teams getting to 20, right?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a lower scoring game. Like that might be somewhere I can see myself getting with you on that one later in the week.
38.5 seems low, but it's just, I mean,
Oh, that is
I
low.
can't do it. Yeah.
It's rare that you get, especially in a Power Four matchup, that you get a total that low. But
Unless it's Iowa, Wisconsin.
you're correct. So, a wise man by the name of Doug Barton once told me that when you look at totals in the week and you see the totals that is the lowest total of the week and the highest total of the week,
Mhm.
bet the over on the highest total of the week and bet the under on the lowest total of the week. And the percentages are pretty wild how often you end up winning those those overs and unders.
Okay.
Because again, making a total that low, bro, below
Yeah.
40 points, what do you think odds makers are trying to do? They're
They want you to take that
begging
over.
you to take over.
Mhm.
They're not wanting you to still go under. They're trying to keep you off the under. And no different than if you see a total of 74.5. Like they're trying their best to like make the total so high that you won't bet it
Yep.
type deal. So that's not a bad bet there, man. And obviously the matchup too. Again, like LSU's offense, not good. Oklahoma's defense, one of the top two, in the country. And they're really good at getting after the quarterback. They're really good at creating tackles for a loss. LSU's offensive line is not good. Oklahoma's defensive line probably is the best overall in the country. Their defensive line is, and their depth that they have at the defensive line position. Brent Venables. This is obviously Oklahoma's. It's their last home game. It's their last game of the year. They're not going to get into the SEC championship. It's their last dress
Probably not their
rehearsal.
last home game.
Do what?
Probably not their last home
That's
game.
true. Good point. They'll
Yeah.
probably be playing a college football playoff game at home as long as they win this game. But
Yeah.
again, that's the other point. Like everything to play for in this matchup. With that weather that I just gave to you, I know there's some pride there on LSU's team, but dude, the way that Oklahoma plays, they're so physical and they try to like literally punch you in the mouth as hard as they freaking can. And you've got nothing to play for at this point if you're LSU. I mean, if it comes to a point in that game, if Oklahoma does get up, 10-0 or something like that, I wonder how much fight LSU is going to have left in them in that spot.
Yeah.
So I do think it's a bad matchup for LSU here. I mean, if Blake Baker's LSU defense shows up and plays with a ton of heart and a ton of passion, they absolutely can keep him in this game because Oklahoma's offense is not very good. But I just think Oklahoma's defense is just going to be way too much, and I can't imagine Nussmeier is going to all of a sudden trot out there this week in this
Yeah.
game against that
Yeah.
Oklahoma defensive front. So it's going to be Van Buren. Uh, yeah, I think Oklahoma's going to win and take care of business. I'm not laying the 10.5 or 10, whatever it is
Yeah.
right now. And if you made me pick anything in this game, I would absolutely take the under with you in that spot.
Okay. Yeah, I think we're on the same page there. Let's finish off with one more college football playoff contender, still just hanging on there. Vanderbilt at Tennessee.
Wait,
Tennessee
who's
two and
the
a half.
college football playoff contender in this matchup, Tyler?
Exactly. Yeah, Vanderbilt is, and poor Vandy too. Like they're the lowest ranked 2-loss team. Like they just still can't help from getting stepped on their way to
Can I
contendership
can I
here.
put you on the spot on a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
If they're running around with beautiful burnt orange and white unis with longhorns on the side of their helmets and same resume that
Yep.
they've got right now, obviously they can't. Texas can't beat Texas, but still, like if their name was Texas and they had those uniforms on and same situation, same resume, do you think they'd be the lowest ranked little two loss team, whatever you're talking about, of the teams trying to get into the playoffs right now?
I don't know because I have looked at their resume, and again, they're getting punished for they're not getting the same benefit of the doubt that Oregon's getting for beating Penn State, that Vanderbilt's getting for beating then ranked number 11 South Carolina
Yep.
for some reason. Um, yeah, or 10 number 10 LSU when they were number 10, right?
Yep.
When they went to Vanderbilt, or 15 Missouri. None of those teams are ranked right now. And again, it's the committee picking and choosing who they favor, and they're going to mention all that stuff for Oregon and not for Vanderbilt. They do have some solid wins. Yeah, you're right. I mean, they'd probably be up there with Notre Dame and Alabama. Think about the three-way, tie with Notre Dame, Texas, and Alabama, all those huge brands and everything. So,
Yep.
no, you're probably right.
Yeah, the problem with that is obviously it's one of those teams you just named beat them and beat them I think by 11 or 12 points in Tuscaloosa. I was at that game actually, but
Yep.
that was a little closer game than what the score indicated.
Oh
Honestly,
no, they beat them by 16 because they covered on the last second play.
that's true. That's true.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's true. Uh, but I mean, dude, this would be Diego Pavi. Dude, it's hard to say this because he's accomplished so much at Vandy. This would be his true Mona Lisa because he said that they were taking over the state of Tennessee and that Vandy was the team of Tennessee. And the fact that they could go into Knoxville last game of the year, and if they win this game, they will finish the season with a better record and ahead of Tennessee in the SEC standings and a possible shot at a college football playoff bid, depending on what happens around them. But to go into Knoxville, dude, I know that you know enough about the history of the SEC and all that to know that for Vandy to go into Neyland Stadium
yeah.
and beat a good Tennessee team, a ranked good Tennessee team, would be just unbelievable. Hey, Tyler, I haven't gotten any on this episode. It'd be cataclysmic if
Cataclysmic.
they were to go into Knoxville and beat Tennessee in this matchup. Uh, if I mean, why am I even saying if? When Diego Pavia plays well in this matchup, dude, I think this is going to be again. I need to check the weather, but I think this could be an absolute just two teams getting buckets on each other, two offenses just lighting each other up. Because Vandy against the better offenses has had trouble stopping them. And Tennessee against the better offenses this year has had trouble stopping those offenses. So if we may have a shootout in Knoxville this Saturday, and dude, I know you. Dumb question. Can he get it done? Of course he can. Do you, what does Vandy have to do to beat Tennessee in Knoxville this Saturday?
They've got to control the clock. They've got to take the crowd out of it. But I think also he's gonna show his flair. Diego's gonna show his flair when a big play happens, that it's gonna get the crowd back into it because they're gonna be just hating it so much. So
Yeah.
it's kind of a double-edged sword. Yeah, they gained 20. Like the crowd should be quiet, but he's gonna do something and do some gesture, whatever.
Weather's going to be actually perfect.
Yeah, 50
It's gonna be
degrees, I
around
think.
50 degrees or whatever, in the 40s, 50s, 40s on
Yeah,
Saturday. It's gonna be perfect Saturday afternoon in Knoxville weather.
yeah. I think for me in this game, I think this is where now I don't think they have. If they get to 10-2, that's a that's a fantastic season for Vandy. Still a incredibly outside shot to make the college football playoff, but I think this is where I think this is where it dies. I think Tennessee gets the job done on Saturday, and they beat Vandy and continue to own the state of Tennessee, I guess.
I'm with you. I haven't said this phrase much tonight, but I have a best bet in this game, and I'm going to take Tennessee minus
Wow.
2.5 against Vandy to uh, officially end the wonderful story that is Diego Pavia and Vandy this year. Uh, I think Tennessee's got too much firepower on offense. Again, man, Tennessee's so good at home. I know they lost to Oklahoma earlier this year and they lost
Hmm.
to Georgia this year, but their record over the last 4 or 5 years, and especially under Josh Heupel, has been so good at home. Uh, Vandy this year too against the better competition. They've given up some points. They gave up 38 to Auburn a few weeks ago. Auburn hasn't scored that in probably 3 games combined in certain games this year. They gave up 34 on the road at Texas. Uh, I mean, LSU is not very good offensively. They still gave up 24, which is not a lot. But they gave up 24 at home. They gave up 35 to Utah State earlier in the year. I mean, this might be the second best offense that they have faced this year. And
Yeah.
considering the circumstances in Knoxville at Tennessee like this, uh, it's not some huge robbery or anything like that because Vandy's been so booty for so long,
Right.
but because of the circumstances that I just can't see Josh Heupel in Tennessee allowing Vandy to come in and win this game. If anybody can do it, it is Diego Pavia. I'm not
Mhm.
disrespecting Diego Pavia. His story is just unbelievable and remarkable. Yeah, I think that this Tennessee offense is going to be they're going to get buckets against Vandy's defense. They're going to score. And I think Tennessee's defense can cause some problems for Vandy's offense. So I'll take Tennessee to outscore Vandy. And again, dude, this is a classic situation. Let's just say if Vandy gives Tennessee all they want, if Tennessee can win this game 38-35, and that's what, Tyler?
That's an over
Well,
and a cover.
that's a cover. It might
And an
be over
over.
too. Might be an over
Yeah.
too, but that's a cover.
Yeah.
So I'll take Tennessee to cover the 2.5.
Got a couple more here that we'll just talk about real quick. The beautiful thing about rivalry week, anything can happen, but this rivalry week in particular,
Uh-huh.
if I counted correctly, and I know the rankings haven't come out on Tuesday night yet, but as of Sunday, 13 ranked teams are going to be going on the road to either face unranked teams or teams ranked lower than them. And they're all favored. There's a ton of home underdogs, so this is going to be a blast to watch.
There's going to be some chaos, man. Something's
Yeah.
going to happen. You just got to hope it's not your team.
Yeah. Is there any chaos for these three teams? Any trouble for Notre Dame minus 32.5 at Stanford?
No. What's the
You got
line again?
32.5.
I'm not going to do it. I was about to give Notre Dame as a best bet, but no, they're going to kill them, bro. They're going to kill them. They're going
Yeah.
to win this. This is going to be 40 something to not much.
Yeah. How about BYU at home against UCF, favored by 17.5?
What time's the game?
It's a good question.
Just look real quick. Hang on. It's worth it. Let's look.
The
All right.
game time in Provo this weekend, BYU is playing at 1 o'clock Eastern.
Ooh, good for UCF. The Vampires will not be vamping during the day. No, Kalani Sitake.
UCF struggled with Oklahoma State this past weekend.
Right. Kalani Sitake is too good of a coach to allow BYU to be like UCF is so bad that like BYU could not show up and play well and they still find a way to win.
Yeah.
So that would be beyond shocking if they won that game.
And finally, Texas Tech going on the road to play West Virginia. They are 21-point favorites in the game.
Do I think they could have some trouble? I do. I just, dude. Morgantown's it's a wild place, dude. Like we saw them already beat. Like there is no sense to make of it that they beat Pitt.
Yeah.
And we gave them out earlier this year. That was both we actually that was the only week of our upset alert all year long where you and I matched up.
Yep.
On that, and we both had West Virginia in the backyard brawl to beat Pitt, and they found a way to win. And Rich Rod, the way he has the running quarterbacks and stuff, you never know. But the different thing about this Texas Tech team is we've said it all year long, that defensive front, man. If that defensive front for Texas Tech and Jacob Rodriguez and that front seven and Bailey and that crew show up, they're going to be fine and they'll take care of business. But of the three that we just named, if one were to have some trouble, that would be the one I would say that Texas Tech could have some trouble.
Okay. Speaking of upset alert. Now you said there that that was the only week we aligned on our upset alert. Are we aligning again this week?
I don't know. Give yours first, and I'll let you know.
Well, mine just happens to have one of those teams involved in that backyard brawl. And I'm not taking West Virginia to upset Texas Tech. I'm going to take Pitt on the money line. I talked about it earlier in the game preview. I took them plus 6.5, and I think they get the job done outright in this game. And I think they end all of the talk and whatever about Miami being disrespected and head to head and all that. I don't even think it matters at the end of the day. So I think Pitt and Pat Narduzzi and Mason Heinschel get a big win. They get to 9-3, and then they get to sweat it out and kind of see what happens in the ACC that night with SMU and Virginia and see if anybody loses. And maybe they could sneak their way into the ACC championship game.
I'm gonna do it one more time, man. I'm gonna go to Lincoln Memorial Stadium.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna go to
Man.
Lincoln Memorial Stadium.
You just didn't learn your lesson, did you?
I didn't. I took Nebraska. Look, I went 6-2 That's so funny. I don't know if you've ever done that too. That's great. That's so good. I went 6-2 in best bets last week, and one of my losses was just ugly. I said that I didn't know how Vegas, like we would find out if the reason why maybe that Vegas builds those really tall buildings, because I couldn't understand why Nebraska was getting 9.5 points from Penn State. And I took Nebraska plus 9.5. And RIP to Nebraska still there in Beaver Stadium as they got absolutely just demolished by Penn State. Nebraska's final home game of the year, obviously last game of the year, big rivalry game against the Hawkeyes. And I'm
The
just going
series that Iowa has owned.
They've owned it. They've owned it. They have. And I must be crazy, but I'm going to double down here. I probably should hedge here because I have Nebraska over 7.5.
Mm-hmm.
I'm doubling down, brother.
Okay.
Nebraska needs one more win to get me my over 7.5 wins. I'm going to take Nebraska plus 5.5. And obviously, I'm going to sprinkle some on the money line because it's an upset alert pick. And last week, I gave out NC State to upset Florida State, and they did it. And you and I both have had a lot of success this year in our upset alert picks of outright winners.
Yep.
And either the Pitt Panthers are going to get there for us this week, or the Corn Shuckers, the Huskers, are going to get there for us this week against the Iowa Hawkeyes at home. I'm going to back the Black Shirts in Nebraska to upset Iowa, getting 5.5 points in Lincoln Memorial Stadium in their final home game and getting to 8 wins. I'm going to win a money line bet on Nebraska, and then I'm going to win the over 7.5. And the next time we get together, I might buy you a good drink and a bite to eat somewhere because of this Nebraska Cornhuskers.
There you go. All right. Best bets. Obviously, we're recording this really early in the week due to some obviously Thanksgiving travel and all that. I already gave out Michigan plus 12.5, Washington plus 7.5, Pittsburgh plus 6.5, and on the money line, LSU Oklahoma under 38.5. And then last episode, I gave out Georgia Tech plus 14. I gave out Texas plus 3. So you're seeing a theme here, a lot of underdogs. And then one more I gave out. I got them real early when the line opened up. It opened up as Clemson minus 2.5 at South Carolina. And I grabbed South Carolina plus 2.5, and it's since flipped. South Carolina is now the favorite. So a little closing line value there. So those are my 7 best bets as of right now.
Nice, good deal, man. Right now, I've only got three, and I'm going to. I'll say this right here. I will put a video out at the before all these games kick off of a on our social medias. You can follow us on Instagram, on Twitter, on TikTok at Always Talk Ball on Twitter, on X, and we're at Always Talking Ball on Instagram and on TikTok. I will put a video out of my best bets. I believe I am 48-39 on the year. Yeah, I was 48-39 on the year. So just to recap again of my best bets, I've got Tennessee minus 2.5 at home against Vandy. I've got Nebraska plus 5.5 against Iowa with a sprinkle on the money line there is my upset alert pick. And I've got Ohio State. I'm crazy. Ohio State minus 9.5 for Ryan Day to get that 800-pound gorilla off his back and get rid of that monster under his bed and to beat Michigan in the game on their way to the Big Ten championship game. So I'll take the Buckeyes minus 9.5. That's the only three that I've got so far.
Okay. Guys, it's Thanksgiving week, so obviously we're very thankful for you guys tuning in with us, listening, following along. It's been a heck of a ride this season. Hope you enjoy Rivalry Week. We got some football on Thursday night with a little Navy Memphis. You get a little Black Friday ball and obviously some Saturday ball. And then we'll be back later on in the weekend to recap all that is Rivalry Week and get you ready for Conference Championship Weekend. For Lance Barton, I'm Tyler Nohe. Take care. Have a great rest of your day. Have a great Thanksgiving weekend, and we will see you next time.